First, it's thought to be extraordinarily f*** me. Okay, everybody, it's time to do Hamlet. And this is the fourth time now I've tried to make a lecture about Hamlet, and it kept taking a really long time. And I've always wondered why it takes so much longer to discuss Hamlet, even in person in class, than it does to discuss any other Shakespeare play. And I have realized why. It is because so much has been said about Hamlet, so much has been written, and so much of what has been written is so directly and completely at odds with what is supportable by the play that when discussing Hamlet in a context like this, in which I'm supposed to be, learning you about the play, it's necessary to spend as much time talking about why the various things said about the play are not right as it is talking about the play itself. Now, fortunately, if there were a Venn diagram of stuff about Hamlet and stuff about Hamlet that's been said and is not right, there's a lot of overlap, so that saves us a little time. But nonetheless, this is going to be a lengthier discussion than probably for any other Shakespeare play. So there's that. Here we go. Right, let's start by giving the standard interpretation of the play. This is generally what critics have said about the play and about the character for the past couple hundred years. Claudius, the king of Denmark, is king because he has murdered his brother, the old king Hamlet, and morally polluted the kingdom. And this pollution is made even worse because Claudius is now living in incest with his sister-in-law, Gertrude. Young Hamlet is an extraordinarily thoughtful, delicate young soul, and Hamlet receives divine command via the ghost to kill Claudius, who has usurped the crown, and morally cleanse the kingdom. Hamlet, however, delays, not certain whether to trust the ghost, and this delay is in fact part of the the essence of Hamlet. This young man has trouble committing to action, okay? However, eventually, Hamlet writes a small play to be performed for the king and the court. The play is called The Mousetrap. At the play, Claudius reacts guiltily to seeing a depiction of himself murdering his brother. Seeing Claudius's reaction, Hamlet knows that Uncle Claudius now is guilty. Hamlet then passes up a chance to kill Claudius because Claudius is at prayer, and Hamlet reasons correctly it would not be just to kill Claudius when Claudius is actively praying, because Claudius might then go to heaven, whereas Claudius had killed old Hamlet with all old Hamlet's sins on his head, as it were. And old Hamlet, who knows where he's at? Maybe he's even in hell. Well, Claudius, suspicious of Hamlet, arranges for Hamlet to be killed. Claudius sends his agents, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, to take Hamlet to England on a boat, which is how you get places. Hamlet, though, is rescued by divine intervention and returns to Denmark, while the evil Rosencrantz and Guildenstern continue on to England to be murdered. Because Hamlet is very clever, as we see. Well, Hamlet returns to Denmark much calmer. He is reconciled with what he must do, and he is ready to kill Claudius in a manner that is acceptable to God. The graveyard scene makes this new calmness of Hamlet's evident, because you see, the stress of the situation has been so much for young Hamlet's soul that he temporarily went mad. And so he was mad. Well, you kind of know the rest, I think. Hamlet manages to kill Claudius and cleanse the kingdom, and we are to take Hamlet's friend Horatio at his word when Horatio says to the dead Hamlet, "Flights of angels sing thee to thy rest." Okay, so that is what goes on in the play. Hamlet's flaw, it is asserted Hamlet does in fact have a flaw, and it is, whatever it is exhibited through his propensity for delay, his inability to take action. If Hamlet had just gotten on with things when the ghost commanded him to do so, then everything would be fine. But Hamlet can't do that. because he's too damn thoughtful. And so that's why it takes so long for Hamlet to get the revenge that he seeks. Hamlet's poor treatment of Rosencrantz, Guildenstern, Ophelia, Gertrude, Laertes, Polonius, all of that is justified because, you see, all of those folks are in league with the evil Claudius, and therefore they deserve what they get. In this sense, Hamlet is sometimes seen as a scourge. A scourge is an evil person whom God uses to bring vengeance to other evil people. But Hamlet isn't really a scourge because Hamlet's not evil. There is a critical tradition of taking Hamlet, the title character, at his word. It's rather like a problem play. Problem play is a phrase used for some of Shakespeare's plays that do not present easy moral answers, that end up being ambiguous. And Hamlet sometimes is considered to be one of those. One more thing, Laertes and Fortinbras are parallel characters to Hamlet. Okay, they're analogs, as it were. Hamlet is far too thoughtful. He is far too reticent in taking action. Laertes is far too rash. They are at opposite ends of the doing stuff continuum. Fortinbras, who is a prince like Hamlet, is in the middle of the continuum. He is an individual of action and of thought, and Hamlet would do well to emulate Fortinbras. Okay, I think I've gotten all of the big basics out of the way, except for Hamlet's madness. Hamlet, according to the standard interpretation, is in fact driven mad. And that he is calm at the end of the play is simply, I suppose, a phase of his madness. But yes, the tension and the stress are too much for Hamlet's delicate soul, delicate, thoughtful youth that he is. And in fact, he is driven mad. Okay, I think that's it for the standard interpretation. So let's take those issues one at a time, shall we? This play, which was composed around 1600, fits into the category of revenge tragedy. Revenge tragedy was in vogue in Renaissance England. There are a bunch of plays about a revenger. There's the Spanish tragedy. There's the creatively named Revenger's tragedy. There's Hamlet, and on and on. If you want to get yourself an anthology of Renaissance literature, or just Google England, Renaissance, revenge plays, you'll probably find a bunch. Hamlet fits into this category. And one of the things that happens in the revenge plays generally is that the revenger, the individual who is taking revengeance, as it were, those of you who know Metal Gear will, never mind. The revenger is driven mad. Eleanor Prosser wrote a book in 1960 called Hamlet and Revenge. Dr. Prosser takes a very detailed and well-researched look at how revenge was viewed in the Renaissance. Now, culturally, we are in love with revenge. We like us some revenge, absolutely. From then to now, it's a cultural thing. And yet, for a culture that is largely Judeo-Christian, that's at odds with what we are supposed to be doing. Okay, vengeance is whose, saith the Lord? I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Vengeance is whose? Right, exactly. But we like it. Dr. Prosser writes that in Renaissance England, there basically were recognized two forms of revenge, public and private. Public revenge, or public vengeance, is when revenge is taken for the greater good. Private vengeance, on the other hand, private revenge, is when revenge is taken for personal motives, selfish motives, and the vengeance has not necessarily anything to do with the greater good. Public revenge is generally seen ethically or morally as better than private revenge because at least some good is being done, writes Dr. Prosser. And I'm paraphrasing all of this, obviously. But both types of revenge are condemned, strictly speaking, because it is a Judeo-Christian culture, and we're supposed to leave revenge to, Shakespeare, generally speaking, seems to condemn revenge. In Romeo and Juliet, Titus Andronicus, Othello, revenge leads to bad things, okay? And in The Tempest, one of Shakespeare's last plays, the main character, Prospero, foregoes revenge. So Shakespeare seems generally to see revenge as not a good thing. Well, let's look at the evidence that the ghost is good and trustworthy. The evidence the ghost is good and trustworthy. He looks like old Hamlet, previous king of the nation. He espouses morality, in fact, telling Hamlet to leave Gertrude to God. And the ghost says that the kingdom needs to be cleansed by having Claudius killed. Other hardcore evidence the ghost is good. Well, that's largely it. Now, the ghost, we know, speaks truthfully when he says that old Hamlet was killed by Claudius. So maybe that's part of the evidence the ghost is good. Let's look at evidence that the ghost is perhaps not good. The ghost disappears at daybreak, as it was believed evil supernatural things did. The ghost sends Hamlet on a mission of revenge, and revenge is generally not good. Hamlet's friends see the ghost as an ill omen. Hamlet himself knows and states that the devil sometimes can assume pleasing shape in order to trick people. Hamlet's friends all think the ghost is going to lead Hamlet to harm, as indeed ultimately it does. A sub-question, an important one to consider when saying, well, is the ghost good or is the ghost evil, is where does the ghost come from? Well, clearly it does not come from heaven. The ghost says that, but that it is forbid to tell the secrets of its prison house. It should tell tales that are so terrible that Hamlet just wouldn't believe them. And the ghost says that it's condemned to roast in fires all day long. So, okay, clearly that's not heaven. At best, it sounds like that the ghost is from hell. At very best, it's from purgatory, okay? Now, ye Judeo-Christian tradition culture within dwelling people, the Bible is full, right, of examples of God allowing spirits out of hell or even purgatory so the spirits can come back and exhort someone to take revenge for them. It's full of those. Is it? You're right. No, that's not a thing. So, the ghost, good or bad? I think the evidence pretty squarely points to bad. And speaking of hell, there's quite a bit of deliberately sending people to hell in this play. Hamlet passes up the chance to kill Claudius because he thinks Claudius is praying, right? This is after the mousetrap. And Hamlet determines and states he will kill Claudius in a manner that will send Claudius to hell. Now might I do it, Pat. Now he's a-praying, and now I'll do it. And so he goes to heaven. And so am I revenged. Well, that would be scanned. A villain kills my father, and I, for that, his sole son, do this same villain send to heaven? This is hire and salary, not revenge. It took my father grossly, full of bread, with all his crimes, broad blow, and as flush as May. And how his audit stands, who knows, save heaven? Well, who should know? Hamlet should know, right, if he actually believes the ghost is that of his father, because he said he's confined to fast and fires. So Hamlet saying, gosh, who knows what the state of my dad is a little disingenuous. But in our circumstance and course of thoughts, 'tis heavy with him. Am I then revenged to take him in the purging of his soul when he's fit and seasoned for his passage? No. Up, sword, and know thou a more horrid hint, when he's drunk, asleep, or in his rage, or the incestuous pleasure of his bed, at game swearing, or about some act that has no relish of salvation in it, then trip him, that his heels may kick at heaven, and that his soul may be as damned and black as hell whereto it goes. So, yeah, Hamlet decides he's going to kill Claudius in a manner to send him specifically to hell. Ophelia. Now, Ophelia is not deliberately sent to hell, but there is... Yeah, hi. Giza, the cat, has something to say about this sending people to hell. I don't want to know how it is that she knows about that. Ophelia is not said necessarily to be in hell, but she is being buried in the churchyard. And there is the implication that the king has personally intervened to go, yeah, this is what we're going to do. Because there is question as to whether Ophelia, who is a suicide, can be buried in the churchyard. Because as a suicide, hypothetically, she's in hell. So you're not supposed to bury such folks along with the good people. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Hamlet very specifically, I almost said mutates. Anyway, the letter that he writes that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern take to England and show the authorities specifically says these two guys are to be killed, not shriving time allowed, meaning killed with all their sins still heavy on their head, and they go to hell. So this is about the most evil thing a person could do. Even Dr. Prosser arrives at this conclusion in her book, Hamlet and Revenge. Deliberately sending someone to hell, bad. Bad, bad, bad. So let's ask ourselves, even were they not gone to hell, did the various people that Hamlet murders or causes the death of, did they deserve to die? Polonius. Well, in the words of my first Shakespeare professor, Polonius is an old fool. But does he deserve to die? Is he purposefully doing evil things? Is he purposefully trying to harm Hamlet? That answer would be no. Ophelia, does she deserve to die? Yes, because she rejected Hamlet, goes the standard view. I don't want to be too blunt about this, but that's stupid. Ophelia is commanded to reject Hamlet, commanded by her father, Polonius, who is worried that Ophelia is going to get pregnant. That's his worry. And he states of young Hamlet that Hamlet has a much longer tether than can be given Ophelia. And let's be real, in the Renaissance, if you got pregnant without being married, your life is fucking over. So, Polonius, in commanding Ophelia to not spend time with Hamlet anymore, is doing what a responsible father would do. And what's Ophelia going to do? Go, this to you, Dad. Fuck you, Pops. I'm going to do what I want. No, she's not going to do that. She can't be expected to. Gertrude. Surely she deserves to die because she's committing incest with Claudius. Is she? He's her former brother-in-law. There's no blood connection between them. How many people in the... Well, let's though count up the number of people in the play who, express, the statement that Claudius and Gertrude are living in incest. Let's count them up, right? I mean, there's Hamlet, obviously, and then there's... Well, there's just Hamlet. He's the only one who seems to have any problem with that. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Surely they deserve to die because they came and they did Claudius's bidding. And they accompanied Hamlet toward England where he was going to get murdered. Well, a couple of things about that. There's no indication that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern had any indication of what was in the sealed letter that Claudius sent with them. Also, yes, the king called them and said, "Come, I got a thing I want you to do." What are they going to do? Say, nah, to the king? No, they're not. If the king calls, if the president calls you up, you're going to go see what she or he wants, okay? Even if it's a president of whom you're not fond, if they give you a phone call and say, yeah, I want to talk to you, you're going to do it, okay? You can pretend that you won't because you may not like whatever president it is, but you will. That's just all there is to it, okay? And when Rosencrantz and Guildenstern get to see Claudius and Gertrude, what they're told is that they are to observe Hamlet because Hamlet is troubled and they want to find out what's troubling him so that he can be helped. Pure evil, huh? Laertes, he deserves to die because he wants to kill Hamlet. Well, yeah, he does. Let's think about his motive. Hamlet killed his dad, and as Laertes sees it, Hamlet essentially killed his sister, Ophelia. Yeah, both those things are true. I'd probably want to kill Hamlet also. Now, does that mean it's okay? Well, no. No, it doesn't. But to say that Laertes is just doing what the evil Claudius bids him to do is not, no, it's not that simple. Claudius, well, of course, he does deserve to die because he killed old Hamlet. Yeah, he did. There's no two ways about that. Interesting thing, though. When, after the play, Hamlet comes across Claudius, and Claudius is praying, notice Claudius is not praying. We hear in Claudius's soliloquy, and those are two hard words to say put together right there, we learn that Claudius is regretful. He knows that he did a bad thing in killing his brother, and he feels that he is beyond redemption. He can't even pray because he is so ashamed of what he has done. That's a little more than we can say for Hamlet, isn't it? Does Hamlet ever express remorse at the misfortune he has brought to anybody? Well, the answer to that would be no. So, saying that any of the people who die because of Hamlet's actions deserved it is a stretch, to put it mildly.